Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We've got an incredible set of guests. I'm so excited. We're going to be talking prevention education, moving your program to the online space, and how do you stay motivated as a leader of an organization. Really excited to share with you and can't wait. So let's jump in. Hi, everyone. I am so happy to be bringing the guests on that we have today. Two friends of ours, friends of our organization. I've worked with one of them before, and they bring such a fresh approach to amazing, important work. I'd like to be able to introduce them. We've got Janine DiVita, the co-founder of Empowered Voices, and the co-founder of Empowered Voices, Stephanie Brooks. Ladies, thank you very much for joining us today.
For having us.
Thank you.
So I've been thinking about this one for weeks and how we can try and encapsulate all the great work that you do into a segment. So I know we've got lots of great topics to be able to talk about. Before we do that, can you just tell us a little bit about your background, each of you?
Yeah,
Janine,
for
how
sure.
about you?
I'll start. So I have spent the past 15 years as a professional actress. I've done a slew of Broadway shows in New York, national tours, regional work, concert work all around the world, and screen and film work as well. So, but in the meantime, I've always been really passionate about the transferable skills of stage work and acting. And when I met Stephanie, we decided to combine our efforts and create Empowered Voices for prevention education.
Very good. Stephanie, tell us about yourself.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Brooks, and I have about 20 years experience in the field of education management and therapy, kind of trying that. And I worked for the military for the last 12 years. And with that, what I've done was use prevention education and skills and risk reduction management in order to provide things that people tend to miss or dismiss a lot in our field about things like suicide and sexual assault. And so I did meet up with Janine, and we had an amazing conversation. And just from there, we just decided to merge our two forces, move forward with it, and that's how Empowered Voices came to be.
Very good. So I love the approach. You guys take a very different approach to training and training in person. We'll get to the online version and what the dream is there. But tell us about the theatrical approach to the trainings that you provide.
Sure. So basically, what Stephanie had been doing in the military was utilize interactive practices to make an impact with her students, the military. And we decided to build upon that by bringing in an actor's perspective and acting exercises. So it becomes really an experience that our students and participants remember, and it's something that makes a really big impact on them, so they're actually able to step into a character's shoes. It's a great empathy practice to imagine what it's like to feel like somebody else. And also, as we all know, the more you practice something, the better you get at it. So the more you practice, as an actor would practice a scene, the more you practice asking for consent, the more you practice bystander intervention, the more you're going to create that as a habit and as something that becomes second nature, the way that an actor, when they're embodying a character, that becomes second nature to them. So it's a different approach and a different way of thinking when you're thinking about prevention education.
So if you could, for the audience, just kind of outline the major topics and themes that you cover with Empowered Voices.
Stephanie, I'll give you a chance to talk.
Thank you. So our major themes are basically really um, targeting the sexual assault prevention aspect for not only just sexual assault, but sexual. And so, like Janine was saying, we embody the aspect of what we want to create an atmosphere where people are feeling us, because so often done is just use these tools where we're really preaching to them. And so while doing that, people tend to get bored, or we can lose them. But when you actually imply or get them to work together, then you're able to, sorry, there's some feedback here, bad.
No, you're
Then
doing
you're
great.
able to get them to be more motivated and feel in that space so that they can move forward in that situation should it occur in real time.
Okay. I love that. You guys really, I mean, even in asking others to take on the roles and teaching them the behaviors, it's much more engaging than a lot of in-person trainings that I've seen. And so, first I want to commend you for that. But on top of that, you use some of the theatrical vocabulary, don't you?
Absolutely. So, what we've found, especially with the military, there's actually a lot of overlap with the terminology. So, the military they use words like tactic, obstacle, objective, motivation. Those are actually acting terms as well. So, there's a lot of parallel there. So, we're actually able to communicate on the same wavelength and really relate to them. And they find that, and what we have found is that they find it really fascinating and really interesting that they're able to utilize this terminology that they've been using in their military career and actually apply it to this prevention education practice that we're doing.
Good. Now, Stephanie, you guys have gained some good traction initially, and very impressed with your work with the USO and some colleges and universities. Can you tell us about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So we have been to several different military installations with Empowered Voices. So we get hired by the Department of Defense to go to different military bases and do these required trainings. Like these are trainings that are required by the DoD. And what's been great about Empowered Voices is that it is a different approach to these required trainings, which are usually in sometimes, well, they're PowerPoint presentations. And so there's a phrase in the military community called death by PowerPoint. And we've kind of turned that on its head to create something very interactive. And we have teamed up with Her Campus, which is a really great organization that is a really big news outlet and social media outlet for women in colleges. So we're very passionate about empowering other women to stand up for themselves and to just create a safe culture between men and women on campuses. And then with the USO, I direct the USO show troupe. So, I bring those values into the USO show troupe, when they're performing and really try to and really encourage our actors and our performers to just be their best selves and lead with confidence and an empowering kind of mentality.
Very good. So, Stephanie, when you're working with the young women and on the college campuses, do you guys change your approach? Is it pretty well the same basic script and then you modify? What's your approach to working with the younger audiences?
I think, well, we actually utilize this also with the military, and there it's a very diverse audience. And so, what we do is really personalize and create things utilizing a platform or a theory of this thing called ethnodrama, and it's basically dramatizing the data. It's written transformation of research, and so how we do our research is that we dive in a little bit deeper by using leadership, the people who are surrounding them, as well as our potential audience, to get feedback and to find out what real life situations are occurring, and so then we can actually personalize their specific program for their entire audience. So they're really using what they know and seeing that come to life. And the participants really step outside of their comfort zone doing so, but they also feel safe because they're not being pointed at saying, "Oh, this is my story." It happens that communication, because once they start seeing people um, hearing their stories as well, they're able to start moving forward with opening those lines of communication.
Yeah, I think it's also more comfortable for people to take on a character, right? Instead of that personal experience, they kind of get to wear the cloak of a character that's doing a particular thing.
Absolutely.
So when you are working with, I was attracted to the work that you guys do. We have two young daughters. Well, not young; they're in their 20s,
Mhm.
and they are engaging in many of these same types of conversations, encountering much of what you guys talk about. And I just, for there to be a specific program that's pointed at young women entering the college, entering that system. What type of reception are you seeing from the colleges and universities? How's that going?
It's been going well. I think it's a very important subject. I mean, the whole culture of communication, I think, is just very, we both believe is very, very important, especially for young women when they're in that transitional period of becoming teenagers into young women, young adults, and really finding their voice. I think that that's a very vulnerable place to be because you're taking on these kind of adult situations of living on your own for the first time and everything, and yet you're still very young, and so finding your voice and finding how, different ways to empower yourself, I think, is very important. And so I think that that's why it's been well received by college campuses because, like you said, you're able to pretend a little bit and step into someone else's shoes and wear that cloak that we as actors love to do. We love to play characters, and there's an element of practice and self-discovery that comes when you're playing a character. You discover a lot about yourself as you're actually playing somebody else because the things that you draw upon are already within you. And so that's something that I think is really cool about empowered voices is that we actually really encourage them to find their voice as they're embodying someone else. You're actually really learning a lot about yourself and a lot about how you are able to express yourself in this world.
Very good. So, expression in this world, great segue. The social communication, the social narration that's going on right now. We have everything from social distancing going on, Black Lives Matter, all of these different narratives that are happening. And I wanted to really hear from you guys. What are you seeing? What are you predicting? What are you hearing related to the social narrative around the topics that you address? And how are you moving those forward?
Stephanie, do you want to elaborate?
Right.
Sure. So a lot of this is really creating that space for meaningful dialogue, and that's what's happening. And so at this point, we're just kind of brainstorming, and we have been brainstorming about how do we move forward
Right.
and get those people to continue with that meaningful dialogue. And that's where I think this all fits in is using um, our technology and a different platform to deliver that information. And so that's what makes this so exciting because nothing really can beat that face-to-face interaction. But we absolutely right people together that we can match it or succeed that by going together and moving forward using a digital platform. So
So, well, and that's, obviously perfect for us. And we love that conversation that's happening as we
Mhm.
progress to working with you guys and helping you enter that digital space.
Mhm.
What's your vision? What is your long-term goals? Where would you like to
Mhm.
see empowered voices go?
Well, I think, like Stephanie said, utilizing the technology that we have. I feel like there are so many platforms right now that people have access to. So we actually have the ability to really reach a lot of people with this philosophy and with this kind of practice. And so that's really exciting. I think, like Stephanie said, nothing really beats the in person kind of practice that this is. But the overarching theme of our program is communication, understanding, and respect. Like that's basically our overarching theme. And I think that actually can be, we both believe that actually can be taught digitally, because it's a different way of looking at things. It's learning about other people and taking something that, has been drilled into us for years and years and years, and kind of looking at it in a different way. And so for our digital platform, we envision interactive videos, we envision virtual reality, we envision really getting people to think as an actor does when they are uh, thinking about how they can act in the real world, so that they're able to look at a situation, look at a scene, and really think about, who do I want to be? Who do I want to be in this world? Who do I want to be in this situation? And that kind of imaginative thinking is what we can actually really accomplish, I think, digitally.
Right. Well, and there's a distance that the technology sometimes provides. Again, we talked about taking
Hmm.
on the cloak of,
Hmm.
someone else's persona. It's
Hmm.
safe on the internet. It's safe
Hmm.
to, maybe answer a question and see if that's the right approach. So
Hmm.
there's almost the test the water with the
Yeah,
technology safely.
exactly. And so much of that is what we do in a rehearsal room as an actor. There is so much like falling on your face. There is so much failing. There is all of that happens in the rehearsal room. And it's a safe place for that to happen. And that's what we create in our small groups when we do our in person workshops. And because we do a small group workshop with the actors, the volunteer actors, and then we present it to a larger audience of anywhere from 200 to 1,200 military and personnel. And so that small group of actors, though, we create a safe place where they're able to, try something. If it doesn't work, okay, you try something else. And so they're thinking on their feet. They're practicing that, and that ability to feel vulnerable, I think, is very, very important. And I think that you're right. I think that technology can create that space where people ultimately feel safe, trying new things and failing.
Yeah, absolutely. So, taking a step away from the work that you do for just a moment and talking about
Mhm.
yourself as female entrepreneur, leader roles, right? And role
Mhm.
models for young women. And I mean, there's just so many great pieces to what you guys do. What have been the struggles in moving empowered voices forward so far? So, the journey thus far, what have been the challenges that you've encountered, and what are maybe some of the ways that you've overcome those?
Stephanie?
Stephanie, you want to hit that one?
Um,
I feel like I'm
so I'll
hogging the
say
mic.
from me.
Yes.
Great. So, situation moving forward, it started several years ago when I tried to implement this bigger within the military, having this kind of interactive approach. And I was extremely lucky to have a very supportive team and supervision over that. But unfortunately, there's all the bureaucracy of what that looks like. And so often the military was just like, nope, we're going to get to the point. We're going to give them what they need. And so for me, it was a struggle getting them to really come to a place where they were going to accept something like this. Um, However, I started doing it on a very individual level within my classroom and while training. And then we had this opportunity to um, something presented using our stage. And so that's when Janine and I came together. And so once we did that, because the military is really into, they want to know things that are data driven. And so what ended up happening was we utilized tools to do surveys, and we got back the most phenomenal feedback, and it
Good.
really kicked us off. So the challenges were just getting this started in a bigger sense. And then once we teamed up, that's when everybody said, okay, this is working. So
Mhm.
Very good. So
And
then,
since,
as we, oh, please, go ahead.
and since then, we've been working together, but I think the biggest challenge is that, we both have careers outside of empowered voices. And so I think the biggest challenge for us has been to find the time really to
Yeah.
dedicate to it. And then now we have the time because, our schedules have all, been flipped upside down with COVID-19 and everything. And so we have a little bit more flexibility in our schedule. And we really believe that the shift to the digital market is really important right now. And I think that there's a need for it. So now it's really, you know, trying to run with that kind of avenue.
Right. Very good. So, for many of the founders that we work with, it's that prioritization and commitment of resources and your time. Time is absolutely finite, as much as we would love to think otherwise. And allocating their time and dedicated time to their startup and their new entrepreneurial activity is really tough, especially if it starts off as a side gig. So I'm really glad that you brought that up because I've met some founders that expect a lot of traction on a side gig that they're just giving morsels of time to. When I'm sure you guys can attest to the fact that it being an entrepreneur will take as much time as you give it, right? And the results absolutely are the exponential return on your time. Would you agree?
Mhm. Absolutely, absolutely.
I,
I
I
think,
absolutely agree.
yeah, when Stephanie
Right.
and I were really focusing on empowered voices, we were flying. And then I direct the USO show troupe, and I wanted to give 100% of my efforts to that. And so that's what I'm doing now. Um, and I'm completely dedicated. I am super, super passionate about empowered voices and what it means for our communities. And so I think you're right, though. I think it's finding the time, and you know, i- you can't give morsels to something that you want to become a huge thing. And so it is trying to allocate that time and work with my partner in a way that is beneficial to the company at large.
Right. So, what advice would you give to young women that are looking to start an entrepreneurial um, business or venture on their own? Are there, because I think you guys are such great role models. You were successful before, and now you're bringing that success to this new venture. Is there advice that you would give to young female entrepreneurs?
I
You
would
want to go
say
first?
that they, sure.
Go ahead.
I would say that the advice is to just have that drive to not give up. When you have, pitfalls, you just need to pick yourself up and continue forward. And if you have a partner, really open up those lines of communication and discuss ideas and go with that gut feeling as well as logic. You can't just go with one or the other. And use that drive to go after what you believe in, because there's going to be downfalls and you'll get pushback. But for the most part, when you have something solid and you work together on it, you just got to keep moving forward. I think that's just my biggest thing is pushing yourself.
Mhm.
Right. Janine, anything else to add on that?
That's great. I would also add
Absolutely.
to that um, that I think that a lot of times we limit ourselves by a title or by the profession that we are in. And, like, for example, I am an actor and a singer, and I do mostly stage work. However, I also do film work and I do concerts and I teach and I run the USO show troupe and I direct and I produce and I have empowered voices. So for me, I would encourage you to not limit yourself and don't let anybody put you in a box just because they think that, oh, you're an actor. That's what you do. If there are other things that you want to do, and if you have the other side of your brain that's equally active, honor that. Like I used to be like, no, 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 I just have to do this because if I don't do this, then I won't be viewed as creative and blah, 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 blah. I'm equally as creative in all of my administration stuff and things that I do. And I think that it really is a great marriage between my two sides of my brain. And
Right.
I'm constantly busy. I'm constantly invigorated, and I stay curious. And so I think that not limiting yourself and staying curious is, I would say, just run with that.
Right.
To all
I
actors, to all people who might be watching, like, just don't limit yourself. Your skills are entirely transferable.
right. I completely agree. I can't
Absolutely.
imagine any other superintendents right now that are doing what I do. Uh,
Exactly.
but but I ran a school district. I'm running a company, and absolutely, there's transferable skills. I couldn't agree more. So I'm going to ask each of you, what keeps you motivated? I mean, what are those things where, I mean, because the life of an entrepreneur, there's a great meme out there right now. It's like this jagged graph that's all over the place as far as your motivation and your inspiration and your success, because there is no linear progression in anyone's story that I've seen. So
Yeah.
when everything is going up and down, Stephanie, what do you do to kind of bootstrap and gain that motivation for yourself?
For me, I just dive into learning more. I consider myself a life learner, and so I'm constantly looking for other stories for motivation, and feedback from the people who I trust around me. And so the biggest thing for me is just learning more, and not pigeonholing myself to one little space. And that continues to motivate me because there's always that one person out there who will create the spiral effect that makes me continue to say, this is what I'm doing is a good thing. And so that works for me.
Absolutely. Janine, what is your, what refills your bucket?
Um, Music refills my bucket. Honestly, like, if I listen to music and I sing all the time, and so that always re-inspires me to be able to express in that way. So I'll listen to music, or I will sing, and that re-inspires me. But I also, and that's on a personal level of, like, what gets me up in the morning, or if I'm feeling low or uninspired or whatever, I'll put on Spotify or a playlist or something, and then I'll be re-inspired again. But in terms of, like, the bigger picture, what inspires me is just feeling like I'm making a difference, and I feel like stories really make a difference. I think they're the way that our community is connected, but through shared experiences. And so I'm very passionate about creating those shared experiences, whether it's through my work on stage or on camera, or whether it's through entertaining our military audiences through the USO show troupe, or whether it's through creating memorable experiences and learning experiences through empowered voices. I'm really just about creating memorable experiences through storytelling.
Fantastic. It has been so great. I encourage that our audience is going to continue to watch this journey with you guys, that they'll go to empowered-voices.com. They're going to see the amazing work that you do. They're going to encourage their communities to reach out. And then they're going to see the development of this digital version of
Mhm.
what you have to say, and the important messaging that you have to share. I am incredibly grateful, one, to know you both, and second of all, that you took some time today to spend with us. Before we end, we always have a nerdy question, which is, what is your favorite piece of technology that you have and couldn't live without? Let's start with
Um,
Stephanie.
For me, gosh, I would say even over my phone, it's definitely my laptop. It's perfect for communication. It stores large files and videos, and it's very portable. So it's very versatile. So it's one of the things I probably couldn't live without, just because for communication and also um, and learning more.
Very good. How about you, Janine?
for me, it's my phone. I don't. I mean, I do. I can go without it. I can, but I am pretty much glued to my phone. I love that I'm able to just, if I have an idea or a thought or whatever, I can Google it. I can put it in my notes. I know I constantly have ideas for, like a new screenplay or like a new show or whatever, and I love that I can just grab this thing and just da, 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 and then there it is.
Very good. Ladies, we thank you so much for your time today. It's always a pleasure. We look forward to working with you. We look forward to, helping me spread the word on your amazing work. And thank you on behalf of my daughters. My wife, Corey, loves you guys. And you continue to inspire us. So I'm honored to have had you on the show today. Very thankful and wish you nothing but success moving forward.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thank you
Of,
so much.
of course. And at the end, we have to thank our sponsors. I'd like to thank WorkVivo, SchoolStream, and STEM Minds for helping to support our podcast. And we look forward to hearing your comments. Please check out empowered-voices.com and check out Janine DiVita. She's going to make you cry when you look her up on YouTube. She has an amazing voice and amazing talent. And again, thank you both very much. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thank you too.
Bye-bye.